gesture by buying a food trailer for Colette, who was a professional chef. Though it might feel stifling to some to have their best friend and family intermingling, I was nothing but happy for the two of them. They both knew all of my secrets anyway. I had nothing to hide. Colette gave me a grin and a wave as she climbed into Buck's van, and I slid Sawdust's carrier into my SUV. Sawdust lay down in his plastic cage, but kept his head up and ears pricked, listening intently as I told him that he'd soon have a whole church to explore. He loved to see new places, so I often brought him along on my jobs to satisfy his cat's curiosity. "It's even got a bell tower," I told him. "Pretty cool, huh?" My cat cocked his head and replied with a mew. His question, whatever it was, would likely be answered soon enough. We headed up Interstate 65, my SUV following behind Buck and Colette. 15 minutes later, we exited the freeway and turned down a country road known as Licton Pike, which ran alongside Walker's Creek. We slowed as we approached our destination. The 5-acre property was far wider than it was deep. The parcel stretched along the frontage of the road. Nestled back in the trees on the left side of the road sat the small, red-brick ranch-style home that had served as the church's parsonage. It might not be a large home, but it was quiet and peaceful. In fact, it was almost entirely obscured by the woods, the trees providing passers-by only a glimpse of the front left corner. You'd hardly know it was there. We passed the narrow gravel road that led to the parsonage, drove another 100 yards past the rail and wire fencing, and pulled over to the side of the road so Buck could get out and open the gate. Once he had, we turned onto the paved road that led to the church. With so many cracks and potholes, the paved road jostled us as we went along. Sawdust stood in his carrier, his 4 legs splayed for better balance, a scared look on his usual sweet face. "Sorry, boy. Just a few more bumps." Once the work on the building was done, we'd get an asphalt company out to lay a fresh, flat surface. The church was a typical country church, wood with faded white paint and a tall steeple that included the bell tower just above the roofline. The church had fallen into disrepair after sitting on the market for 9 years without a buyer. The church's governing board had long ago decided it was no longer cost-effective to maintain the outdated building, and had built a modern church closer to the freeway, with enough space to accommodate their growing flock. The trees had been cleared next to the church, providing an unobstructed view of the rolling hills that surrounded the city. Despite the pretty view, the property wasn't attractive to most rural buyers, as the acreage wasn't large enough for a farming or ranching operation. What's more, the same man owned all of the property that surrounded it, meaning there was no chance of expansion. The property had long since been paid for and wasn't costing the church anything, just sitting there. It had become a long-ignored entry on their balance sheet until I came along. The cost and hassle of raising the church turned off potential buyers as well. But I saw potential in the existing buildings and thought the church could be reborn as a stately country home, or maybe a small winery. It could even be reconfigured to serve as a retreat center and spa. With all of the focus on self-care and wellness these days, a spa might be our best bet. The place had lots of potential, and I had lots of ideas, though I had yet to settle on one. I wasn't sure yet about the parsonage either. Maybe we'd rehab it, or maybe we'd tear it down. Or maybe we could separate the lot it sat on from the remaining acreage and sell it as is for someone else to tackle. For the time being, it would make a good place for us to store our tools and building materials. Construction sites tended to draw thieves looking for equipment they could pawn. Hopefully, any would-be robbers who came out to the church wouldn't realize the house next door was part of the church property, if they even noticed it at all. After parking my SUV, I donned my hard hat, which I'd decorated with daisy decals. Just because I'd be doing manual labor here didn't mean I had to look like a man. I handed another hard hat to Colette. The church building needed a lot of work, but it was unlikely to fall down on our heads. Still, it was best to take precautions. Better safe than sorry. I retrieved Sawdust's carrier and carried him to the steps, taking care to avoid the horse droppings along the way. "Where did all this horse poop come from?" Buck snorted. "From the back."